Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm about to open this Masters of the Universe Origins 2000X He-Man. They call it the 2000X He-Man because it's based off of it looks like one of the older original figures, which this one didn't exist at that time, but the color and the emblems and all that stuff's based off of the Masters of the Universe remake cartoon that came out from 2002 to 2004. So this is considered He-Man 2000X, and he looks pretty cool. Whenever it's got this Masters of the Universe here, in that particular logo versus this one, that means it's that 2002 to 2004 cartoon, because that was the logo they used on that. And I'm gonna just go ahead and open this guy up. Let's look at the back first. He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. And let's see, it says, on his 16th birthday, Prince Adam accepted the mantle of He-Man, drawing on the power of King Grayskull. It's got all 4 figures from this wave. They also came out with a Skeletor that looks like he did in the 2002 cartoon. And then they got Pighead, that's some man's enemy. And they got Montana. I just did a review of Montana, so check that video out. He is really awesome for a basic figure. I'm surprised he wasn't a deluxe figure, but okay, you can fit the power sword into his hand and twist into powerful battle positions, which is a feature they list for almost every one of these Origins figures. So I kind of, in the Montana video, I kind of showed a way to open these. I won't go through all that again, but there's a way to open these, or get them off the plastic anyway, without cutting the bands, if you want to keep them intact, so you can maybe try to put them back on that someday. But I don't usually worry about that, because I don't keep the plastic bubbles normally. I just don't have space for it. I do keep all my card backs, but I usually just cut the plastic off the cards, because I don't like seeing all the torn paper look. So it makes them a little bulkier because it's got a layer of plastic in there, but to me they look better. And if one day I figure out how to get the plastic off without damaging the card, you'll have a card that's intact. Right now I don't know how to do that. I don't know if somebody does. If you do, leave a comment. I'd like to know. If I get all the plastic framing for these bubbles off all my cards, that'd be so awesome. I'd like to display them one day, if I ever have the space. Do something with them. And that goes for the Star Wars cards too, especially the Star Wars Vintage Collection. Alright, I got a little bit of the original packaging on the bubble, but not too bad. Alright, so I'll show you what I meant on that in a minute. And this is the same comic book that came with Pighead. So if you want to see this comic book, if you want to see my cheesy reading of this comic book, I guess I should say, check out that Montana review, because it's on the back, the last part of that video. Alright, so, and I did note in that comic book that this is the He-Man 2000X version, because you can see this sword's the way it looked in that 2002 cartoon, and that emblem. So they pretty much work. In these comic books, they'll usually have one comic book that's the same in 4 figures, and that would be the 4 that's listed on the back, and that's what that wave is. So these are the 4 that came in that wave, and they'll all have the same comic book normally, and they'll all be featured in the comic book. So this one also features Sun Man. He's not in that wave, but sometimes they'll include other ones in there, like the Sorceress, but they usually will at least have the 4 that's in that, and they'll work them into some little story where they all appear somehow. So we've got the 2000X He-Man, as you can see right here with that sword, and then you have Montana and Pighead, and then the 2000X Skeletor. And to me, the 2000X Skeletor doesn't look hugely different from the especially in the comics from the original. He-Man had more obvious changes to me. I think the Skeletor sword, it's not shown in this, but his sword's different, like He-Man's sword was different. But other than that, he's pretty close. But anyway, check that out in the Montana review if you want to see more of that one. And then they all come with these. Not all of them. CamoCon didn't have one of these, I don't think. Maybe it did. I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember. But I know it didn't have a mini comic. It had that spread that opened up. I don't believe it had a one of these in it. And it shows like which parts are removable, so you can pop their legs off and arms and swap them out. So if you want to have a 2000X He-Man with a Skeletor head and a trap jaw arm, you can make him. So I always thought it was a pretty cool feature. I never really have done any of that, but I might make a video one day just doing some mashups like that. That'd be pretty cool. So he has this shield, and like I said, if you want to see how to get these out without breaking the straps and stuff, you can. Now this one has that rubber band strap, and those are super easy to get out without cutting. You just slip one arm out and the other one will come with it. You just slip it off that other arm. And when they have that, I can sometimes get these out without even pulling the anchors through the plastic. Yep. So the anchors are still in the plastic, and you got your little rubber band. Just throw it in there, and if you want to put him back in the card one day and strap him to it, you still can. If you want to make it look like he's in the package still, and you might want to display them for a while, then you want to display something else and you got limited space, so you want to store them away, you can kind of store them back the way you got them. They might have higher resale value just by being complete with the packaging anyway. Like I said, I don't usually keep the bubbles. I just don't have the space for them. I would have a warehouse just full of plastic bubbles. I do recycle them though. They are recyclable. So take note, Hasbro. You don't need to do away with plastic on your packaging. You just need to point out that they're recyclable. They're #1 plastic. And that just means you can put them in the same bin as you do your Coke bottles. So just make your consumers aware of that, and you don't have to worry about plastic-free packaging and ruining your lines. Luckily, Mattel hasn't went that route yet. So, all right, I'll get off my high horse, and we'll get on to this review here. So let's lay all this out. We got the He-Man. See if I can get him to stand up here. And he's got a shield. And you got your mini comic and your little instruction guide. Oh, okay. This sword looks like the one from the 2000X cartoon, but the 2000X cartoon, it had two parts. It was more three-dimensional. So like these would like turn, and it'd be like 4 different sides to it, kind of. And this one's all molded flat, 2-dimensional almost. I mean, it's got its texture and stuff, but it doesn't spin like that. So, and then you got this big old battle axe, and that's kind of like what they had a figure line that went with that cartoon, and it had those. But the sword that came with that line, it would spin that way. They were a little larger figures. They didn't really go with the originals when you're displaying. So this is a way you can display these with your other Masters of the Universe originals, or the vintage ones, I mean, or with your Origins. I do wish that sword would at least twist, though. Excuse me, my voice is going. So he does hold it pretty good though. So I like that. Don't fall out of his hand or anything. And it has an extra slot on his back here for, I don't think that sword will fit in that. Well, it kind of does, because it's got some stretchiness to it. So you can put the sword in it. But my He-Man always have the sword in the hand. So if they have an extra accessory, that goes on the back. So that's just me. He-Man's got to have his sword, man. And then you can make him hold his shield on this arm. So what it has here, it has a little rounded place you can put to his hand, and then you snap that on his arm, and you can make him hold it up. But he's a pretty cool figure. I'm always partial to the original He-Man, but that's a pretty good looking figure, especially for an action pose with that sword. Let me get him on camera. He looks like he's about to rush into battle there. It's pretty good. I like it better than the I'm so sorry, my voice is going. I worked all night. Literally, I work night shift. But he looks like he's rushing into battle or something, so that's pretty cool. Oh, I was going to say, I like him better than I do the 2000X, original 2000X line. I'm going to pause this for a second, and I will go get one of those figures. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see in this picture, you can see what I was talking about with the sword. I'm going to show you on the 2000X He-Man also. Okay, so like I said, I like this one better than I did the actual line. I never really cared for that line that much. And I think this is a version of He-Man from that line. I don't think this is the official standard He-Man, because this one has a button and it talks, and I need to change the battery out in it. But this one was like a more deluxe type He-Man, I think. But as you can, we'll compare the two. One thing I don't like about that line is the legs do not bend at the knees or at all, really. They only bend at the hip. So they had like one battle pose basically. And also, look at that humpback he's got. His neck's like a foot in front of his body. So he looks like the Hunchback of Notre Dame to me, more than he does He-Man. But that axe is like way too big, and it makes his, on this one, it makes his little holder, looks like it's gagging him all the time if you put it in there. And it always wants to spin to the side or whatever. So that's kind of annoying. It has this part here that's supposed to snap into here to hold it, and you can't ever make those stay hardly. Well, actually staying now, but it don't want to stay a lot of times when it's on him, because that axe pulls it down so hard it pops loose. And we will compare the weapons on these though. So already this figure is cooler to me. I think when they had done the 2002 cartoon, they should have made them back like they're doing the Origins line, but they didn't. They went a whole new route. They kind of have more of a McFarlane Toys look to them, but they really only had about 5 points of articulation. Okay, they did, the arms would go in and out, and they spin at the waist, and their heads had ball joints. But I mean, the legs are almost like your 5 POA figures. Let's see if the wrists move on these. I don't remember. Yeah, that's what I thought. The wrists, they turn, but you can't flex them. So his wrist always looks like it's bent inward, and you can't do anything about that to change it as far as posing. But I did like the weapons on these. Sort of. Not completely, but and I'll explain that. First of all, I don't even know I'll get that. Okay. That's the other thing right there I hated about these figures. A lot of the figures had that hand. I mean, they had the hand that you don't really use for much, and then they had the hand you put your weapon in. It was specifically for that, and they almost didn't want to fit in there half the time. I had to really force that in there to get out, and it was hard to get out just then. So anyway, I'm going to put these side by side here and we'll do a comparison. But they were a little taller figures and more slender. They didn't have that barbarian bulky chest and arms and stuff as much. But I'd rather have Barbarian than Hunchback any day. So this is what I was talking about with that sword. It actually would spin. It was really just one piece. This part went down. That's one piece right here. This part, and that's all one piece. And then that stuck down into this handle, which is like, looks kind of like, just looks like a grapper claw with a stem. But that would allow it to spin out and be like four-sided with that, like it was in the cartoon. But the only bad thing about that is, on these old figures, is, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. I was going to say it wouldn't go back in flat, but it does. You have to turn it one way though. That's as flat as you can get it if you turn it the wrong way. But that's what I thought it did. That's in my memory. That's what it did. So, so you could have it looking kind of like it is on this one, where it's more two-dimensional. But look at the difference in size. But it was a larger scale figure, so. But still, I think scale-wise, this is he got a bigger sword in the old one, and it did that spinning feature. So, I wish they had at least done the spinning feature in this new one, but I'm okay with it because it's supposed to look like the original vintage line, and it probably wouldn't have had that articulation back then because of cost and everything. The sword's a bunch bigger on the 2002 He-Man, and the axe is a lot bigger. But that's not, and it was colored. That's one thing. And with the sword, the original sword had color to it, and this one's all one color. And the same with the axe. So the detailing on the old 2002 figures were better on the weapons. I wouldn't have minded it had they colored the Origins 2000X He-Man's sword and axe. I wouldn't mind it if this axe was a little bigger, but like I said, this one was way too big and heavy. I mean, you can't feel the difference like I can here, but this one is about 3 times as heavy as this one, I would say, even though it's not 3 times as big. So, this plastic, it has some flex to it, but these were a lot more flexible. They were about, I don't know why that's so heavy, because this has a higher rubber content in it or something, maybe. So I'm just for fun here, I'm just going to make this new one hold the original weapons from the 2002 and see how much bigger they are, if it looks good holding these really huge ones. Let's see. But like I said, the figure's a bigger scale, so these are going to look ginormous now. Open it up. Put this gigantic one on his back. That actually looks pretty cool. That big axe. It doesn't have the same problem with it pulling this flimsy thing they had on the 2002 version. So, I mean, even though that axe is so big and heavy, it works on this one. So, my only gripe with this one is, I mean, we have a lot of He-Man figures already, different versions. If they're going to do a new version, I think they should at least went all out on the swords, because that's the biggest difference, really. The sword and the axe. So I would have appreciated a little bit more detailing, paint detailing on the axe and sword, and had that spin feature on the sword. But other than that, I'm happy with it. I think it's a good figure. It looks good in a fight scene. We'll try him with his axe. Put the sword back here. I always have the sword in his hand usually, but we'll just, for the purposes of trying it out, we'll do it. So we'll do it like he's going to give it a big whack here. I don't know how guess that's a good way to swing an axe. I don't know. Not a big axe swinger. That axe actually, it either casts a shadow on him because it's so big if you put back to swing, or it wants to fall out of his hand if you do it a different direction. So. Or it looks unnatural the way he's swinging it. So again, I like the sword better, so we'll put that back and put the axe on his back. Okay, so there you have it, the 2000X He-Man. Origins, Masters of the Universe Origins 2000X He-Man, compared to the actual 2000X He-Man. And I appreciate you watching the videos. Please like and subscribe so that you can see my other reviews. And check out the Montana and CamoCon reviews I just did. Both of those are really cool figures. And just trying to set them up side by side here before I go. Let you just see the difference. See, this axe does not want to cooperate on this hunchback 2000X, original 2000X He-Man. And this, even the shield, the way that hand's built, made, it's like you can't even make the shield hold up right because you can't bend it. That you can't articulate the wrist, so it doesn't look natural the way he's holding it. It looks like the chain's choking him. It looks like the shield's not holding it naturally in a defensive mode. He looks like a hunchback. The sword's cool. That's the only cool thing about this figure. I need to put the battery in it and see what he says. I don't even know if I've ever even tried it out. But I do like this one better as far as posing. It looks more like, you know, like you can pose him the way he would be in a battle. That's a much better fighting stance than this hunchback version. All right. I think, and like I said, I think this is a alternate version of that 2000X figure. I don't know if the other one had this chain thing and all that, because this one is a talking when it has a button here that you press. So you have all this for the battery compartment. That may be why it looks hunchback. I've never actually had another version of this one for the 2000 line, so I'd have to research that. But I wasn't really interested in those very much. I just didn't like the way they looked. I love these because they look like the originals. I like the classic line because they look like cartoon versions, kind of the Filmation Super 7. But this 2002 line that came out, I just never really cared for them. And I did like the cartoon from 2002. It wasn't the same as the original 80s cartoon. And my biggest complaint was it didn't have the 80s cartoon He-Man theme. I like the old 80s He-Man theme, but it was a good cartoon as far as storyline goes. They retconned some stuff, but they also showed stuff the original cartoon didn't show, like how Skeletor became Skeletor and all that. So it kind of built on the storyline, even though it's altered it a little bit. So I did like that series. It's different. But I didn't care for the figures that went with it at all. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please subscribe and check back soon. I'll have some more. I'm going to do this 3-pack, Sunman 3-pack here pretty soon. It's got Sunman. It's an alternate version. He's got more like a flat top. And then it's got a pig head. This is a different version. I think it has more of a metallicized kind of paint detail. And then it's got Space Sumo, so Telekinetic Ninja. And I think that's the only version that's came out in so far. So I think they may have just put a new one on Mattel Creations, actually, that's for order right now, if they hadn't sold out, and it's on an individual card, but it's not out yet. So, and like I said, I just did the video reviewing Montana, so check that out because he's a cool figure. And I'll see you soon. Thank you.